And the fourth part is having control of your fear. For me, fear was something that was on my shoulder at all times when I was hurt. When I said to myself, I'm going to walk again one day, fear said, no, you're not. Fear for me was worse than a bullet. Fear for me paralyzed me worse than a bullet. Fear for me paralyzed me psychologically and paralyzed me emotionally. So when I got control of my fear, when I was able to identify the source of my issue, when I was able to identify where it came from, that I didn't necessarily put a positive or negative label on it, and I analyzed where it came from. I analyzed how it made me feel. Then I changed my life. And I had control over my fears. You know, when I got hurt, I was instantly paralyzed. Instantly. I went down on the floor, and the guy was so close to me that I didn't even hear the gunshot. And I remember being taken to Jamaica Hospital, and I was on a stretcher, and I was being wheeled into the ICU. And I went into the elevator, and I looked up in the elevator because I was laying down. And the elevator was mirrored. And I looked up into the mirror, and I didn't even recognize my own reflection. That's how cut, that's how bruised I was. I had an oxygen mask over my nose. And I can remember laying on the floor, cold, hard floor, paralyzed, not knowing if I'm ever going to walk again. No one ever able to give me the answer. And I recall panic, and I recall horror coming into me, into my very being. And then suddenly an amazing calm. And it was amazing, this feeling I felt, and I describe it as a grace. I know it was something greater than me touching me, something greater than me waking something inside me up spiritually, something that was going to give me the much needed strength, courage that I would need in the future to overcome my obstacle. And I can remember the day before I was shot. I remember having a dream, and I remember the dream so vividly. And I was in a garden, and it was almost like an Oriental-style Japanese garden. And I was on my knees in a position of reverence, and I remember an old, wise Japanese man handing me something. And in my dream, I took the object. And the object was a sword. A sword very much like this one. It was a samurai sword. When I woke up, I didn't really remember the dream too well. I certainly didn't know the significance of the dream. But as I lay days later in the ICU unit paralyzed, I began to understand the significance of the dream. When I was given the opportunity to take the sword in the dream, I actually accepted the challenge that I was going to face. I accepted it more on a spiritual level than anything else. And in the dream, I knew that I could handle it. The sword was a symbol of the samurai warrior. It was a symbol of strength. It was a symbol of spiritualism. And it was a symbol and a message that I received that I knew that I was going to overcome it. Because I was given the tools, the grace, if you will, to overcome the obstacle that I was at that time going through.